The Feelworld L2 is a 4-input HDMI video switcher. I'm going to show you some of the most interesting features of this device. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. In this video, I'm going to show you how the Feelworld L2 works and a few of the unique features. First, I do have to mention that Feelworld sent this to me to take a look at, but they aren't paying me to make this video and they don't get to look at it before I post it. So let's get started. I assume that you're already familiar with the concept of video switchers. A lot of companies make similar devices to this. You're able to connect multiple video cameras to the back, 4 or 8, or however many inputs there are. You're able to connect multiple cameras or other video sources and then switch between them with buttons or through software. This is how you can run live streams for events where you want to cut between different cameras on the fly while you're actually mixing a show live. This saves a ton of time so you don't have to edit in post. I'm also assuming if you've found my channel that you're probably familiar with the ATEM Mini. If not, I have a ton of videos about the ATEM Mini, a similar video switcher, on my channel. I'll make sure to link to them down below. At first glance, the Feelworld L2 looks a little bit like the ATEM Mini, but there is one big difference. There is a giant screen on the front of this. This screen shows you all your video sources that are connected. Plus, it's actually a touch screen. You can actually double tap on this to change the angle in your program. So you'll connect your 4 HDMI sources that could be cameras or computers. You can either use it by double tapping on the screen to change your inputs, or if you want, you can use the physical buttons to also change between the sources. If you want to use the T-bar fader, you actually have to go into the menu and change the setting to enable that. So press this SW button on the top. That'll load up the different menu for the different effects. Go to this mode icon. You can use the scroll wheel here to change the options, or you can actually touch on the screen if you can get your fingers to fit. If you set the mode to T-bar, then the way this works, whichever input is yellow, outlined, or blinking, when you slide the T-bar, that will bring whatever's in preview into the program side. Blinking green on the buttons means that's in preview and that will be the next transition. That's also indicated with this yellow border around here. If you're in the T-bar mode, then double tapping will load that selected image into the preview. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the T-bar. I have never used it on any switcher before, so I'm gonna go back into the mode and change that to the fast mode. You can also change the duration of your transitions. I find 1 second is a little bit long, so I'm actually gonna change that down to just half a second. Now with that setting, I can double tap and it will quickly transition to the next input. So that covers the basic operation of the Feelworld L2, and you can see that it being a touch screen means you can actually tell someone how to use this a little bit easier than normal. You may have noticed that it's ignored some of my double taps when I've tried to press it, so I would probably recommend pressing the physical buttons instead. There's a couple other features in here, like chroma keying and logo overlay. If you press this SW button, that loads up this menu. Again, you can navigate the menu with a little scroll wheel, or you can tap on it. If we go into the logo overlay, you can turn that on, and you can see it's now loaded the RGB logo in the top left corner. You can slide it around by moving little up and down arrows, and you can load your own logo in over the USB drive. There's also a picture-in-picture function, so if we go ahead and do that, you can actually choose where you want the picture-in-picture to be. Let's select the top right corner, and now when I switch to a different angle, the top right corner is still showing whatever's on input 1. You can also change what type of transition effects are used when you switch between different inputs. I've got it on fade right now, but there's also some of the more fun ones, like these little squeeze things or slide. So let's go ahead and do this little barn door thing, exit out of this, and now you'll see when I press one of these other inputs, it's doing the little shades. I, again, have never really found any use for anything other than straight cuts or a crossfade. Most of the time, I just do a straight cut because it's simpler and it's less distracting to the viewer, but the fade is sometimes fun too. There's also a chroma key feature, so we can go ahead and turn that on, and it's going to chroma key based on the color chosen here. I will say this is significantly harder to use than the ATEM Mini's chroma keying, which you can set up pretty easily on the computer. On the plus side, you can configure this without a computer on the screen here. This also has PTZ camera control, so you can actually tell this to talk to a PTZ camera to control it. I don't actually have any here to test with, so unfortunately I can't show you that feature. There is a USB port on the side, and one of the interesting things about the USB port is that you can actually choose what you want to send out the USB port, unlike the ATEM Mini. If we go into the main settings, there's a page here for USB, and you can choose between the program or the multi-view. You can also set the resolution and frame rate of the USB out independently of the rest of the system. I want to focus on a few of the differences between this and the ATEM Mini. This does have fewer graphics options than the ATEM Mini. It's a little bit more limiting. You can load in a logo from the USB drive, and it does have the ability to do picture-in-picture and side-by-side layouts, but it does just feel a little bit more limiting than the ATEM Mini's graphics controls. One of the other limits this has is that while it does have a network control and they do ship their own computer app to control it, you can't integrate this with other parts of your workflow using Companion. There isn't yet a companion module for using with the Feelworld. There is an audio input jack on the side. There's also audio out. The ATEM Mini does not have an audio out, only the Extreme does. But there is only one audio input on this versus the two in the ATEM Mini. For some reason, the USB port is the unusual wide USB-A rather than USB-C, and there's a power switch on the side, so careful and don't tip it sideways and hit the power button. One of the other differences between this and the ATEM Mini you might notice is that there's a fan in this that's actually quite loud. Right now it's off, but as soon as it boots up, it's gonna kick on the fan, and you may hear that in this video now. There is actually a setting for the fan speed, so if you want to turn it down a little bit, you can. Right now this is the lowest, level 1, and if I turn this up, it's gonna get a little bit louder. 3 is the highest, and it's pretty loud. This is the loudest thing in my studio here. Even all of my rack gear is quite a bit quieter than this. But a couple of the notable features this has that the ATEM Mini does not is multi-view. It's not until you get to the Pro and the Pro ISO that you get the multi-view on the ATEM line, and there's a screen built in, which is honestly pretty cool. Having a screen on this means you don't have to fiddle with grabbing another monitor just to see what you're doing. You can just use this directly without any other devices. And for that reason, it's actually pretty handy to have around just in case you need to quickly switch between different sources or monitor what some other part of your system is doing. I typically don't like using touchscreen devices for live streams just because I feel like physical buttons are a lot more reliable. It's easier to feel my way around and know whether I've actually pushed a button. For all of my live streams, I usually am switching off of a Stream Deck with custom buttons integrated on the screen. I'm even using that to record this video right now. But I think the monitor is actually super useful. And this monitor size built into the device is a significant upgrade from the Feelworld L1, which had a much smaller monitor. Well, I hope this gives you a sense of what the Feelworld L2 is like to use and to work with. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, or stop by one of my weekly live streams and ask questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks again to Feelworld for sending this over for me to share with you on this channel. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.